Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Lauren, and today I want to share my goals for the upcoming 2021-2022 homeschool year. So this is our fourth year homeschooling, and from the very first year, I have always made individual goals for that upcoming year. And so at the very beginning, I had an overall vision that I wanted to incorporate, not for only that year, but just in our school in general. So that word came to mind, and instead of having like a word that I use every single year, I have just held this word and I try to incorporate it in different ways and make it nuanced for that specific year. So my word is excellence. So that not only includes academics, but that is also, friendships, relationships, spiritually, how their character is, who they are as people, morally. I want to instill excellence in all of those areas in my kids' life. And so with that in mind, keeping that in the back of my mind, from there I kind of make my homeschool goals each year. So the thing is with goals though, a lot of times it's easy to just write them down on a piece of paper or keep them in your mind like, oh, I want to do this and this, but unless like there's an action plan to follow up and implement those, they're not really any good. At least that's how it goes for me anyway. So what I plan on doing is not only sharing my goals, but like how I plan on physically and actually implementing them into our day-to-day homeschool. I have some notes here. I'm going to be looking down to refer to them for my goals for this specific year. So first, and they're in no particular order, but first I have more read alouds. So I am, I feel like I'm committing homeschool mom sin. I am not the most amazing, best mom when it comes to reading aloud chapter books with my kids. So I love picture books. If you sit me down with 10 or 15 picture books, I could read them all to my kids and it's great and I love it. Maybe it's the inner 5-year-old in me, but I love picture books. When it comes to chapter books, for some reason, I'm not sure. So I did a little bit of reevaluating, and I think I'm gonna go a little bit of a different direction this year when it comes to more read aloud. I am going to be selecting them all up front at the beginning of the school year, so I know like these are the books that we're reading. We're not adding anything else really, unless something really great comes up. Obviously, you could be a little bit flexible, but I want to really have those so that way I know like these are my books that I plan on reading for the year. So more read alouds to my kids. They really love when we read chapter books all together, and so it's something that I'm trying to learn to enjoy more of. But I'm gonna be honest, it is something that I struggle with. Just being completely transparent. It's not my most favorite thing to do. Okay, number 2 is more nature observations. So I want my children to have a really good appreciation for nature and God's beauty and how beautiful not only like where we live, but other parts of the country are. And so I want to start that love locally with where we live. And so just taking them out, whether it be in our backyard, whether it be at a local park, a state park, whatever it may be, but just enjoying nature more and teaching them to observe things, to slow down. So I recently got a book and I'm really excited to incorporate it this year. Not naturally like a huge outdoorsy person, but I have come to discover in the past few years how beneficial and therapeutic it is for me. And so I want my children to understand that from a young age, to appreciate that. So I'm excited that I have like a little guide to go along with me to kind of help. It just gives different nature prompts, and I will show that in my morning time video, but and go a little bit more into detail with that. But how I plan on incorporating that is I think what I'm going to do this year is our Fridays are going to look a lot different than our other 4 days of the week. And so we've always done Fridays a little bit differently, but I think they're going to look like pretty much a lot different than the other 4 days of the week. And so Fridays will be like that designated time that we do that. And nothing too complicated or crazy or anything like that. Just simple, gentle prompts to just get them to open their eyes, observe the world around them, and just appreciate God's beauty and how delicate and intricate all of his creation is. Number 3, my third homeschool goal is more one-on-one time. That is something that is very easy to overlook, especially I feel like, especially as homeschoolers, because in my mind at least, I feel like, well, I do this person's lesson with them individually and I do this person's lesson, and sometimes I mistake that and confuse that as quality one-on-one time, and it's not. To them, that is school. They want a mom, a dad, they want that individual time. So right now, how I plan on executing that is I'm going to write down, so like once a month, I'll take one girl for a date and my husband will take a different girl, and we'll just kind of rotate back and forth. We have 3 daughters, and so that way they just get a little bit of that one-on-one time, and it's not anything extravagant. It's literally maybe just like maybe some ice cream and a trip to Five Below, something very simple like that. They would be excited with really anything. And so just prioritizing it and not just saying, again, not just saying, well, this would be nice or this is what I'm going to do, but actually writing it down and implementing it, so that way we're, you know, actually carrying through with these goals that we have and all of these good intentions that we have. Another homeschool goal I have is saying yes to more play. So my daughters are getting a little bit older. They still like to play. I have a 9-year-old, a 7, almost 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. Now the 4-year-old loves us to play with her all the time. She always asks us to play. And so it's very, very easy. I find myself saying like, no, I have to fill in the blank. And it always seems like more pressing and more urgent at that point. And I know you've all heard this before. I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard, but I just really want to stop and say yes to more play when they ask, and not be so consumed and so focused on what I'm doing that I can't take 5, 10, 15 minutes to play with my own children. I'm not saying it has to be hours and hours, but even if it's a few minutes, so that it shows them how special they are and how meaningful they are, and they're just as important, obviously more important than whatever I have going on. It sends them all of those signals to stop and play. So I have a little bit of how I'm going to implement that is I do have a little bit of playtime scheduled into like what I want our daily routine to look like, but you know, scheduled play, but I also want impromptu play. So like when they ask me, hey mom, do you want to play hide and seek with us? Or do you want to go out front and watch us play baseball? That I can say yes and do that. So I want to say yes more often. Yes to play more often. Next goal I have this year is to take more field trips. I asked my girls, what do you want to see more of this year, of anything? And they all collectively said, we want more field trips. Now, I understand last year was a little bit crazy because pretty much everything was shut down. So there was a very limited things that we were able to do. But how I plan on incorporating this, because every year, this is how it goes. In September, we do something, whether it's, sometimes we go to the beach and I consider that a field trip, or like Lego, we do something. And then October, we go to a pumpkin patch, the cliche pumpkin patch, we've got to do that. And then November, it gets busy, and December is Christmas, and January, you have winter blues. And so anyway, you get what I'm saying. It kind of just unravels at the seams. So I want to be intentional about field trips. How I'm planning on executing that is writing down everything we want to do, and then putting it on the calendar and sticking to it. And that way we can plan for it. If it costs money, we can put aside extra money to save for it, whatever it may be. But I am making sure that we are gonna take field trips, fun field trips, and have a variety. I'm trying to think of like a variety of different things to do. Maybe take them to a dinner theater, and maybe not even anything that fancy. A lot of the local high schools around put on plays a few times a year, and just introducing them to classic theater and production. They don't care that they're high schoolers. They're not expecting, you know, Broadway or anything like that. And the tickets are usually really cheap. So things like that, honestly, is really what I plan on doing, like as a field trip. You know, I've been wanting to go. This has been my goal and been on my list every year for the past like 2 years, taking them to a tea room. So, I mean, if you're a mom of boys, they probably won't like that. But if you have any girls, we have several tea rooms around, and I've been to one or two before, and it's really fun. Like, you can have them get dressed up or not get dressed, but you know, just to have the experience of that, I think is going to be really memorable. It don't have to be, you know, far away, difficult, things like that. I'm just trying to think of things that we have around here that would be really fun experiences, that would be just memorable to add into our homeschool, and then actually put them on my calendar, commit to going those days. I feel like that is where a little bit of the and then maybe leaving room on the calendar for a month or two of just open-ended in case something random comes up that we just weren't expecting. Like this past April, we went to a tulip field, and I wasn't expecting that. I saw it on a whim on Facebook, and I said, girls, let's go, and we went that day. So I do want to leave a little bit open. I do like to be spontaneous too. I don't like everything planned, but as long as I have at least a good chunk written down, and then that'll leave a little bit of margin for, you know, things that come up. So that is kind of where I'm going for this year for homeschool, for field trips. Then lastly, I want to do more traditions in our school. So actually let me know what some of your traditions are. I don't know, like we normally do something little, like they get a juice box for lunch on the first day of school, and they look forward to that. But we do have a few traditions that we do, but I do want to incorporate more, because I just feel like there's something to be said about doing something routinely and not only having not only looking forward to it, but just having being able to go back years later and just having memories, great memories. So that is honestly, I have a few in mind, but I think what I'm going to do and how I'm going to approach doing traditions is trying to do a few different things throughout the year and seeing how they stick and how we all feel about them and how we felt the experience was, and then going from there saying, okay, do we want to make this a yearly thing that we continue, or something that we continue to do monthly, whatever it may be. I just think that there's something to be said about the nostalgia of having something special that just you guys did, that when you grow up, you can look back on and remember. Those are my goals for our overall homeschool year. Now I'm going to break down individual goals for just my girls individually. So I have done this again, like every single year I put down what I think. I wrote it down on the computer. Actually, the computer that I've written it down on is broken. Anyway, they're on a paper today. So what I have for Larissa, she's my oldest, she's going into 4th grade. So last year she was going into 3rd grade, obviously. So I wanted her, she's beginning multiplication tables, so I wanted her to just have them memorized. 4th grade, I want them to be mastered. She has them memorized. I want them to be like, you know, like she's got them down without thinking or hesitating. They're just in her brain. So we're gonna work on multiplication. The second one is to continue to build her writing skills and become more familiar and at ease with writing. In like 2nd grade, for 2nd grade, she was in, I know that's very young still, so I didn't put too much pressure on it, but she would freeze up, and even doing like oral narration of a sentence and I would write it down, it was very, very stressful for her. She just kind of imploded inside. She just did not, I don't know. So 3rd grade, my goal for her was like just writing a few sentences without completely melting down and completely just shutting down. And she far exceeded that goal. I was very, very proud of her. Something clicked, I feel like, in 3rd grade. She wrote paragraphs, you know, a page or two of reports, things like that. So I want her to just continue to gradually build on those writing skills, just for her to like mentally and emotionally not be so like about it. And just trying to work on my patience as well, as far as when she does face those things, that I can just continue to be calm and patient and reassure her and let her know it's okay and I'm here, and I wouldn't give her anything that I didn't think that she could handle. I try to really encourage my kids to know that to remind them constantly, I know what you can handle, I know what you can't. I'm not giving you anything I don't think you can handle. And so just having that kind of really, I feel like, does help, even though they think it's hard, and just giving them that reassurance of, yeah, it is hard, but you can still do it. I just really, for my kids, that has been really helpful for them. Those are my 2 goals for Larissa. Nothing crazy. Multiplication and writing. That's pretty much it. For Alexia, she's my second grader going into second grade. Hers is that she'll just continue reading more fluently. She did great in first grade. She kind of just blossomed and boomed. Her reading skills just went way, really good. And so I just want her to continue working on that. And then for math, just obviously, you know, keeping up with math, but really focusing in on the mental math skills that are taught in her math curriculum. So pretty easy and basic as well. And Lola, my little baby. Oh man, I don't want to have any goals for her. I just want her to be little and sit in my lap. And I read to her. I'm like, Lola, do you want to do preschool again? And you don't want to do kindergarten, you want to do preschool. And she just started laughing at me. So I guess I need to. I don't need to, but she wants to do school with her big sisters. She gets excited when she gets books. She loves her lessons. She has a great attention span when it comes to her lessons. She can sit still for a very long time. For being 4, she can sit still pretty long. So my goals for her are pretty simple, just starting to read, sounding out words, things like that, basic math skills. As long as she's keeping up with like her math, that's really all my goals. And if she's not, I'm not really too worried about it either. Honestly, she's in kindergarten, she's 4, she's about to turn 5. So my bar for her is pretty low. It's pretty low for preschool. It's going to be pretty low for kindergarten. I feel like the higher and higher they get in age, my bar gets raised a little more, obviously. But for her, I really don't have any. I put here reading and basic math. That's it. She doesn't have to be a fluent reader as long as she maybe can do some CBC words. And she already started doing those at the end of the year. So other than that, I'm not too concerned about that. Okay, so those are my goals for the year on a big scale and then individually as well. You can see some of them were more in depth, some of them were not. Goals don't have to be crazy. You don't have to have a million. You can have one goal. It's what you feel like is best for you and your homeschool and your children. They can be simple, they can be short and sweet, they can be complicated and in depth, or they could just be something that you want to work on for a month or 2, whatever it may be. I would say whatever it is, make sure that it is realistic and achievable. I've had goals before that weren't really realistic and achievable, and then when I didn't meet them, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like why didn't this happen? And it's like was not a realistic and practical goal to set. So here's an example. I just said that I'm not the biggest lover of read aloud books. So for me personally, to say I'm going to sit here and pull 20 chapter books that I want to read in this school year, that's not realistic. A more realistic goal is maybe 5 or 6 books to read for the school year. Or maybe as something seems realistic at the beginning of the year, but as you go through and assess, halfway through the year, you realize, wait a second, this is probably not going to be achieved. And then from there, you can always reassess and scale back or scale up. These don't have to be stagnant, strict, rigid goals that cannot be flexible or immovable. They can change and adapt as the year goes on and as seasons of life go on and things happen in life. And then lastly, if you don't hit all your goals, that doesn't make you a failure. You're not a failure. I would just say, look back and think about what was going on in life. Were my goals realistic? Were they achievable? Was I reaching too high? Or did something in my life happen? Sometimes things happen that you don't even remember. Oh yeah, that's right. We were sick for 3 or 4 weeks back in October and couldn't do school, and that set us behind. Whatever it may be, things like that are going to come up, and just because this particular thing in your life that you had set and wanted to accomplish and you didn't, you're not a failure. It doesn't mean that you've done something wrong or bad, or you're lazy or incompetent or incapable. Look back, reassess, give yourself grace, and move forward. Sometimes a failed goal is a learning opportunity. And so I don't look at not accomplishing something just because you thought that you'd be able to as makes you any less than. So that's all I have. Take of it what you'd like. What are some of your goals? What are some of your intentions that you want to incorporate through this year that you think that you can actually achieve and can carry through? Because I feel like that is key to actually having success in implementing what you are setting out to accomplish. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I hope you have such a wonderful, wonderful day. And if you have not subscribed already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Hit the like button so that I know that you like these types of videos. You take care, have a good day, and I will see you later.